Hello, YouTube friends. So I have a rather large update. Finally, the Superior Court came back with a decision about the Starbucks unemployment appeal. Um, so, to give you sort of the rundown of what's been going on since the beginning, if you're not familiar, it was basically I was working for Starbucks for about 2 years, and uh, at at some point they decided that my hair color was suddenly not okay, to have this hair color that you see here. So there was that, and there was also they had issues with the contacts that I have as well. So there were those two things, and they decided that it was so much of an issue that they were going to try and write me up about those things. And they every time I came into work, they you know gave me I think they were called reprimands, or like they would have a write up, and eventually fired me because of that. The thing that's very strange about all of this is that I know this is just coming from me, but I have evidence that I can show if you're that curious, blogged away somewhere in some of the older videos or online, or that I could just that I was able to show on demand, to the court even, that I was a good worker. I got along with everyone. It wasn't because of my work performance at all. If it was, they should have said that, but it wasn't. And so it wasn't an issue there at all. And then the other strange thing is that I had this same hair color for about a year and a half, or I think over a year and a half while I was working there. It was never an issue. Um, so suddenly this was an issue. My hair color is very important to me. The contacts are very important to me. And when they came to me saying, "Hey, this isn't okay," I said, uh, I, I tried to explain to them why it was so important to me, and and that I would really prefer not to do that. Regardless, they just completely ignored how significant that was to me. And to give you a brief explanation of why it's important to me is that it has to do with a lot of the things that I am into. It's part of who I am, in a sense, because of all of my involvement in writing and fantasy, comic books, video games, um, just art overall, and it makes up a core part of everything that I'm involved in. So uh, it 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 just it never caused any problems either. Like, if anything, the contacts, for example, and the contacts were something that I didn't have for a year and a half, though. My guess is that this is what started a lot of the problems. I had the contacts in for about 2 months, and it also was not a problem. It actually opened up a lot of great interactions that I had with customers. It shook up their day. It was a bit different. There were never any complaints, um, at all. So uh, it wasn't strictly based on that. It was just that the district manager walked in one day, saw that, and then said, I guess that wasn't okay, and then started targeting my hair color and how and everything, which also doesn't make any sense because not only, like I said, did I have that hair color for over a year and a half, but there were so many other employees in the same district, even, that also had this hair color. Um, my sister actually being one of the people who was hired with, we used the same exact hair color, uh, same district next door over. They hired her with that hair color, and they're basing most of the reprimands off of the hair color because there's not actually anything in the dress code about colored contacts. So in the dress code, it says that your hair cannot be any unnatural hair color. At the time, actually, now they've changed it, updated, and I hope I'm in part somewhat responsible for having them update that policy to allow for all hair colors, because um, I think it was very discriminatory and not cool. And it's cool that they're now allowing people to be a little bit more of themselves and to express themselves. And they updated around. They finally let people have tattoos and show tattoos and everything like that. So good steps forward, but sort of a little bit two-faced, because all before they made those changes, they were the enforcement was just weird, because their whole projection, their entire company, both on the customer side as well as the employee side, they showed this face of inclusivity. They were very, very accepting, constantly projecting all sorts of inclusivity sort of messages. Like I said, not just to the customers, but also to the employees as well. So it didn't line up. It didn't make any sense. And then somebody comes along and says, "Hey, this you're not allowed to have this hair color that several other people have, but because the district manager has an issue with your contacts, which isn't actually in the dress code." So that's sort of the rundown of that situation. What happened afterwards is that I was out of a job, and it was an issue that was important enough to me to stand up for, which is why I did that. So it, I decided to go ahead and file for unemployment, something that I've never done before. And that process, that is actually, if you're not familiar with it, is a lot more difficult to go through than maybe you think. It's not like you just submit a form and suddenly you have unemployment. There's a lot of things that you have to kind of go through in order to do that. So I filed for it, and then they had a phone hearing that I was a part of, to decide whether or not I should be allowed unemployment. And there was my store manager, who initially didn't have an issue with anything at all. Like I said, I had the contacts in for 2 months, and not a word was said. It was completely fine, and there were just no issues at all. Um, and the month before I was fired, I got partner of the quarter. Um, so, I mean, there's that too. Um, but anyway, the store manager and another Starbucks representative, lawyer, I believe, was on the call. It was me and this moderator. And that didn't go very well, to be honest. I found out a little bit later that, looking at the transcript down the road, that a lot of the things that I was saying was coming through garbled. There was a lot of like lines, saying that it couldn't be understood. So I felt a little bit gypped there, and I feel like it shouldn't have been. I don't know. That's a tangent. To get back to the main point, the phone hearing happened. Um, the It was decided that I was not qualified for unemployment on the phone hearing. Um, and then I had the ability to appeal that decision. So I was like, of course I'm going to appeal. So I appealed that decision. A bit later, they got back with the decision for the appeal, and it was again denied. I was able to appeal again. They said, yeah, you can appeal. I appealed again, second appeal, and they also denied that. Now, at this point, they suddenly came out with this terminology that I was malicious. They'd never used that word before, and they'd never used anything even close to that definition uh, earlier on in the whole case. And the thing that was weird about that, on top of it, was that it wasn't just that the court never, because at this point I'm appealing the court's decision. I'm not like fighting against Starbucks. And there's something I really want everyone to understand, is that I am not down on Starbucks. I still go to Starbucks. I get Starbucks drinks. I worked for the company for 2 years. I think it's a great company. I think that what happened here was lower management being complete shit and enforcing rules that didn't apply. And just making the whole situation really ridiculous. So, not only did the court not use this word malicious or anything like the word malicious before, um, but Starbucks, in their whole presentation, their whole argument, everything that they said, they never said anything about that either. So now, in the response to the second appeal that I gave, they suddenly have this word malicious, like my actions were intentionally, um, like to harm, basically. And that's what a lot of all of this hinges on, is that they're saying that the reason that I am not qualified for unemployment is because my actions were under this term, that's this term called, sorry, I have to like catch my breath for a second. This term, severe misconduct. So if my actions in this whole thing were identified as severe misconduct, then I am no longer qualified for unemployment. And then, in order to qualify for severe misconduct, my actions supposedly need to be malicious. So that's kind of the simple rundown there. And I can assure you that my actions were not malicious at all. This is something that I couldn't, I don't even, yeah, I don't understand that at all. So moving forward, after that appeal, I believe it was that after that appeal, they said, look, you can't appeal to the lower court anymore. If you want to continue to move forward with this appeal, you have to move it up to the Superior Court. And I was like, okay. So now I write up this response, this appeal to the Superior Court. And then some stuff happened where it was a little bit confusing because the whole way you go through the system, they in my opinion, and I'd say it's more than opinion, I can pinpoint very specific things about this whole process, is that they did not make it very clear about how you transition from going from and appealing for the lower court and instead appealing to the Superior Court. So what happened was that basically I wrote up this whole thing for in a format that was acceptable for the lower court, and it was not the format that it should have been for the Superior Court, and I tried to submit it in that same manner, and they responded to me saying that, hey, this needs to be submitted differently, it's not okay, but I never actually got the response. So at this point, I was going through a coding boot camp, which I now have. Now I have a job, thankfully, as a web engineer, and I was really, really, really busy with that because it was basically doing what I was charged with doing, because you're supposed to find a job as that you're supposed to be seeking a job, while you have unemployment. So I was busy with that. Also very busy because I was not getting employment. I mean, like, you file for this whole unemployment thing and you don't know if you're going to get the money right away. Even if it went through smoothly, right? Like, there were no issues, it went smoothly, you don't get that unemployment money right away. I wouldn't have gotten it for, I think, months, even if they approved it, right after the whole process went through. So it's not really ideal. Anyway, so I had to go through this whole process to reopen the case. In a sense, it not reopen. I think that's not technically the right words, but I had to appeal to say like, hey, this is the reason that I didn't respond, because after a while they just kind of like, um, again, I don't know if this is the right word to use. Like, I don't know if they say that it's closed, but in a sense, it's closed. It's not an open thing anymore. I've run out of time to reply or appeal, and so I had to go through this whole extra process of filing this motion to allow me to continue with this appeal to the Superior Court. So I finally went through that. I wrote up an entire brief. It had to be exact to so many specifications. And remember, keep in mind too, I didn't clarify this. I'm doing this on my own. I don't have anybody representing me. I don't have money for a lawyer. And finding somebody to do something like this pro bono is also a whole process in itself, which is not easy. So everything, there's roadblocks in every area, and this being a civil case, especially, I feel that I should be able to go through and represent myself. Anyway, it's not like I'm in a murder case and every single detail is astronomical, right? So details are obviously very important, and that's actually something that plays into my argument, because when you start to look at some of the things that they respond to, it's almost like they completely ignore a whole set of very valid points that I bring up in all of the appeals that I have written. So what's prompting this video, finally, to get to the point, is that I finally got the response from the Superior Court. And like I said earlier, it's basically that I am arguing against the lower court at this point. I'm not arguing against Starbucks. I'm not fighting Starbucks at this point. In a sense, I'm fighting against the decision to deny me unemployment, which is me in a sense fighting against, yeah, the decision, or the lower court, or the state, in a sense. So the Superior Court is now looking at the lower court's decision. Or not now, but like they did. They looked at the lower court's decision, they looked at what I said, and they came back with this response. And a lot of the stuff that I pointed out earlier, they just went through and ignored a bunch of things that I had said, and sort of cast everything that they're saying in this light that is just highly inaccurate and very slandering. So it's absolutely astounding, and I am going to see what else I can do. I'm just appalled that that this is the way it's going, and you hear about stuff like this, but going through it firsthand is just an entirely different situation. I mean, now I know that some of these things happen, and it's I don't know. So I'm not entirely sure what my movement forward is going to look like at this point. I still have to kind of grasp what I am allowed to do, how they want me to appeal this, if I'm allowed to appeal it. I was under the impression that in order to try and appeal this again, I might have to file a motion specifically explaining what, I guess, special circumstances there are for me to want to open this up again. So yeah, it's a lot of stuff. That was a long video. That's like almost 20 minutes now. So that's kind of the whole case. If I would love to hear what other people think about this. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. I think this whole ordeal has been very educational. So one of the reasons that I'm doing something like this is to, I think I'm trying to, how do I say this? I'm a huge supporter of transparency. So um, I think that it's good to be open about some of this stuff, and actually to also um, shed more light on the transparency thing, I guess, is that apparently, I don't know if it's Rutgers, I think it's Rutgers, if I remember correctly, has now access to this case. I guess after their decision, they said that, oh, it's going to be in this database. People are going to be able to see sort of how it went. Um, so yeah, I'm still absolutely furious. It's disgusting what they're doing here. And they also, I'm like, there's other claims here that I've mentioned before too. They like claimed that my hair was getting lighter or brighter to the point of it being like really crazy, which is not true at all. They even used, and this was coming from um, the like Starbucks from the original uh, phone hearing. Is they started saying like, oh, like his hair got really crazy, and it wasn't. It was, I even, the thing that's so crazy is that I even tried to submit a photo. It didn't work out very well, I think, because um they I didn't, I think, submit it to Starbucks for them to see as well. Like when you're going through this whole process, you need to, when you submit, I guess, evidence or documents at all, you need to submit it to multiple people, not just the court. So, like for example, Starbucks would have to see everything that I said first and sort of be able to assess what it is, and then the court also has to have that. If it was in person, maybe my guess is that maybe it wouldn't be as much of an issue because everybody would be there at the same time. They'd all be able to see it. But when it was over the phone, we're all, decentralized. We're like in totally different locations. So yeah, so it's pretty infuriating. I don't know. Just don't know. I just don't know what to say. Yeah, like I said, it was as if they completely ignored all of the points that I made um, about how I wasn't actually in non-compliance with the dress code. But they tried to slander it in a way that made it sound like I not only knew the dress code, but I knew that it was wrong, that I was doing something, like I was doing something wrong. But that was never the case. I did know the dress code. My argument was that the dress code was not saying I couldn't do what I was doing, and that um, it didn't make any sense for my appearance to be under attack in a sense, and nothing I did was malicious in any way. Like this is all stuff that's very very important to me. If you know me, you know that I'm a huge supporter of the arts, and I am a huge supporter of expressing yourself. And I anyway, I think I've pretty much said everything I can say at this point. Um, but yeah, let me know what you think, even if it doesn't line up with sort of the stuff that I've presented. Um, I will do my best to respond to any questions or points. I am very very confident in my stance. I mean, it wouldn't I would have I would not have even bothered. See, like that's the other crazy thing too. All right, one more point before I go. And I gotta make it quick because it looks like I'm running out of storage space. But one more point is that like it is absolutely insane to me. Like I wouldn't put in the effort. I wouldn't even bother at this point. It's so much work at this point to try and prove that like what's going on here, and so much of why I'm doing this is because it's just true. I mean, the money that I'm going to get from unemployment is not that much. I still feel that it's owed to me, but um it's not it's not that much compared to the job that I have now, because I have a good job. I do have a very good job, and it would be more worth my time to be doing something else. And even if money wasn't involved at all, like it's it's just it's just a lot of work that I would rather not be doing, and I wouldn't find myself doing it if I didn't if I wasn't so certain of my stance. So anyway, I'll leave you with that. I'll keep you updated on anything else I find, and I have another video that I want to be doing, just as a general life update, where I'm at, what I'm doing. But that's it from me. So peace. See you guys.